Hi, my name's Hannah and I'm going to be fixing my art. We are finally in the last week of September, which means it is time for the final part of fixing my Swordtember designs from 2024. If you haven't gone back and watched the rest of the series, I suggest going back and watching them before continuing with this video. I talk a lot more about what Swordtember is and how people can get involved. I talk a lot more about my design process as well, and how some design processes do not have to be as dramatic as others. And most importantly, I talk a little bit about Faith Schaffer, whose list is the one that I am referencing when going back over my designs from last year's Swordtember challenge. As always, I'm putting Faith's Instagram page down in the description below where you can go and check out some of their work. They are doing a Swordtember prompt list for 2025 as well, so if you haven't got involved in Swordtember and you're looking for a place to start, I 100% recommend going and having a look at their prompt list. It's great for beginners, and as I mentioned before, you do not have to do every prompt on that list. If you have been looking at lots of cool artwork throughout the month of September and just want to give it a go as your first time, or maybe you're someone that is a little bit pushed for time to do every single prompt on these lists, that's totally fine. You can decide how involved you get in Swordtember every year. So whether you're doing one design or a design for every day, I think Faith Schaffer's list is a brilliant place to start. As for me, I am tackling 3 redesigns in this final installment of this mini-series. In the interest of keeping this video relatively short and not kind of babbling on for too long, I'm going to try and show off as much of the pre-production side of things all together as much as possible, starting off with the with the crowd of designs from last year that maybe just weren't as good as they could have been. So this is them. I have Mechanical from day 22, I have the Storm Sword from day 26, and I have the Insect Sword from day 27. Now, I could have chosen pretty much all of the swords from the final week of Swordtember 2024. I was really pushed for time for all of the designs of that last week, with all of the academic year starting up and loads of excuses. But the things that I wanted to focus on, particularly with these 3 swords, are particularly with Storm and Insect, they just don't look like swords. I think concept wise, in terms of what I was thinking that the weapon could achieve, is not bad. So with the Storm one, I thought that the blade itself could be kind of like a tornado, and although I think that's a cool concept for some kind of like magical girl weapon, it doesn't translate as sword in this particular design. And the same goes for Insect. I thought of a praying mantis, and I thought that maybe the blade itself could be like the mantis arm reaching out and snapping its victim in half. But yeah, again, when you look at them just on their own without any additional context, they just don't read sword. The Mechanical one, I think I have the most issue with, because although it definitely does look mechanical, if you turn it on its side, then, well, it is just a chainsaw. So I'm so glad that this is the one that I'm starting off with. This is one that I definitely wanted to try and add that more sword element to. But as I was going through and looking at references, I really wanted to keep the chainsaw vibe. So really, this redesign, although it looks like the one that needs the most work, really it didn't take a lot of effort for me to just switch up a couple of things. As you can see, I used the old design as a reference because I was really happy with the colours and the rendering, the colouring, all of that stuff I really wanted to keep. But what really helped me through the sword designs, particularly in this video, is going back and looking at actual swords rather than looking at the reference material of what I wanted the swords to look like. So instead of focusing on what a chainsaw looks like, I was looking at different varieties of swords. So I added a guard up one side with a point to keep the kind of point of the sword in place. I got rid of a lot of the handles, and I kind of toned down some of the noise around the hilt of the sword as well, and I definitely made the hilt look more like something that you can hold with one hand. The gears and the kind of like little engine thing to keep the sword whirring I thought was important, particularly in my head when the sword is moving and operating as a sword. I definitely wanted that rotation to keep there, so I think the little generator detail on the left hand side was really important. But other than that, I kept things very simple. I just wanted to focus in the shapes a little bit more, so I reduced down the handle and I added a guard to give this whole design a little bit more of a sword shape, and I think it turned out pretty well. Moving on to the Storm Sword, I think design-wise, I'm way happier with the silhouette of the sword. I think that the little lightning motif to kind of break up the blade was really, really cool. The thing that I struggled with the most on this one is the colouring. I messed around with like lighting and textures. I kind of flip-flopped between like blues as well and whether I wanted there to be stuff in the actual blade, but I was falling into that routine again of fiddling too much and I was looking too closely at reference material once again. So I decided to take a step back and just let the shape of the sword be the main feature. I left the blade relatively simple. I think the handle and the hilt kind of give you a sense of what it is meant to be even without the blade shape as well, which is still cool. So I think I left this one a little bit more simple, and I'm not sure if I'm 100% happy with it, but I think it's definitely good for me to be able to take that step back and just let it be what it be. This isn't for anything. It is just a personal challenge, and sometimes you need to kind of remind yourself of that before you overthink things and work out too much to the point where you don't enjoy the challenge. So this is my Storm redesign. It is definitely better than last year. It definitely looks more like a sword, but I don't know. Let me know what you guys think about this one in the comments. I'm 50-50 towards it at this point. And finally, the insect sword. I really wanted to keep the initial insect that I had chosen from last year as my inspiration. So as I was looking through different sword designs, I was trying to find shapes that kind of corresponded with different body parts of the praying mantis, and I was really hoping that I could stick with the hand idea or with the pincer idea. And after looking at a couple of machete designs, I felt like I could incorporate that kind of curve into the actual blade and still make it look like a mantis claw, and I think I did a pretty good job. Initially I was just going to leave it as the claw itself, however it looked a little bit too simple for what I was trying to achieve, so I kind of added a little bit of exoskeleton, I guess, around some of the blade to give it just a little bit more visual interest and have the patterns kind of like just peeking out from underneath. I think the more patterns that I included on the sword, the less likely it was to look like a sword, and I was worried about going back to this is just a mantis arm on a stick. So I'm really glad that I did that. I simplified the handle as well. There's a little nod to what the insect inspiration is with the mantis head down at the bottom, but other than that, again, it was just looking at shapes and different body parts of the mantis and trying to incorporate them on a machete kind of silhouette. So overall I think this did really well. I like the colours of it as well, and I like the shape. I haven't done a lot of swords that are asymmetrical in this series, so I'm glad that I kind of pushed myself to try a different kind of technique with that too. So yeah, that is the final sword. I am going to stop talking for a little bit as usual, and I'm going to let you see all of the rest of the designs that I did for Swordtember 2024, and I will speak to you all again at the end of the video. my mini series of redesigning my Swordtember swords from 2024. This video took so long. I was really behind with actually updating the redesign, so it took a little bit longer to come out, but I think it was well worth it. I am very happy with the comparison between the old swords and the new swords as the series has gone on. So I would say overall this kind of little mini challenge to myself was a success, which I'm very happy with. I really appreciate all of the comments and all of the support that people have given me from this mini-series, and it has definitely encouraged me to continue showing off some more art challenges outside of the graphic novel as well. The graphic novel updates will be back in October, however I am working on some other things in the meantime as well. I'll probably have an update video where I can share things like timings and schedule with you so that we can keep things consistent. But for now I want to say thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you want to as well, and I always appreciate your thoughts down in the comments below as well. Thank you so much, and I will see you in the next one.